Shore Prabhu ki. Thank you to our Kirtaniyas. Thank you so much for playing and singing with your heart. The holy name is non-different from Krishna, and so we get to enter a very sacred connection. So welcome everyone to Bhagavat Sravana. My name is Parastu, like Paris with a 2. And it's good to see some new faces and many friends. Is anyone here for the first time? Okay, wonderful to see everyone who's here. And also, happy Narasimha Chaturdashi. Haribol! The appearance day of Lord Narahari, who we will hear more about today. And so we just had some chanting. We're going to have a wonderful talk from our esteemed speaker here, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Very excited to be here. Haribol! Yeah, this is very, very exciting. So we'll have a talk, and I'm about to introduce him. Before I do that, I'll just say that we'll have a talk, and then there will be some Q&A. You'll be welcome to ask questions, and then we'll have an arti, and then it'll be followed by prasadam. So, all right, without further ado, Chaitanya Charan is a mentor, a monk, and a speaker. I'm so nervous.
You're doing great.
First of all, I'm a huge fan, and I'm really grateful and very honored to be able to introduce you today. Though you need no introduction.
She's not saying that I'm very scary.
No, actually, he was my teacher in a class I took here at the Bhakti Center, which is called the Yoga of Writing. And he taught us to reflect more deeply on Prabhupada's books by writing our realizations, and that your writing is valuable. And so it's very important to reflect on what you learn. Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief intro, but he is a spiritual teacher for nearly 25 years in the Bhakti Yoga tradition. Maybe I'm off on the years here, but author of 27 books that explain the relevance of Vedic wisdom texts, including the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana. And he's the author of the world's only daily blog on the Bhagavad Gita, gitadaily.com, where he's written some 4,000 articles on the Gita. And he's invited to speak at TEDx, at the World Peace Conference, and he's spoken at UNESCO, Intel, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, MIT, and Cambridge. And so he gives 400 talks across 100 cities and 4 continents every year. Let's give a big round of applause for Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Haribol and Haribol. Thank you.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurudritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashtatya Desharine Vanchakalpataruyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya My dear Lord, please guide us so that we can appreciate the love of your great devotees, Prahlad, and relish the loving pastime that you have with devotees and inspire us to enter into the world where we can participate in such pastimes also. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming today. And on the sacred occasion of Narasimha Chaturdashi, we'll discuss about the nature of divine love and how that's manifested in the Narasimha Leela and how that can inspire the love in our hearts. So I'll start with a prayer. This is from my new book on the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Prayers Inspired by Bhagavad Gita. So I'll take the theme from here. Basically in this book I have taken some key Gita verses and I have adapted them into English poetry and taken a one-line spiritual affirmation drawn from that, and then we are discussing. Many of you may be given a book. If you want, you can open it and you can go to this page. You can read from here also. So the theme that we will be taking on is that we will be applying today is that just as Prahlad Maharaj is always determined in his devotion, so you can repeat with me, or repeat after me. O Lord of my heart, let me never lose heart. So if you're comfortable, you can just repeat this verse after me. Otherwise, you listen. Okay. We will be giving copies to everyone if you don't have. This is page 28. Eva Muktarjuna Sankhe Rathopasthapavisha Visrujya Sasharam Chapam Shoka Samvigna Manasaha. Thus speaking, Arjuna, torn inside, set his bow and arrows aside. Upon his chariot seat he sank, his heart heavy, his mind blank. Do we have a second mic? Otherwise, somebody has a mic inside the airport. You'd like someone to read, or do you have mic? Do you like read something? Thank you. First paragraph.
My dear Lord, the challenges that the world throws upon me can sometimes be so complicated as to be overwhelming, stultifying, and paralyzing. Just as Arjuna cast aside his bow, unwilling and unable to fight, many are the times when I have felt like casting aside my metaphorical bow, losing my will to fight against problems that seem unfair, unending, and unsolvable.
So, we'll discuss about Prahlad's story today. And thank you. We'll discuss about how the principle of bhakti that is demonstrated over there is relevant today, and how love involves a variety of emotions. So broadly I talk about 3 points which I'll convey using this acronym SIP of spiritual or bhakti wisdom that we try to provide. So first, S is similarity. For many people, when they hear stories from scriptures, especially if they're not yet familiarized with the tradition, then it seems just weird, fantastical kind of stories. Oh, there are demoniac beings, there are demons, and there is a being which is half man, half lion, and that's considered to be full god. So it all seems too fantastical. And okay, these are some stories which people previously believed. What are the stories got to do with us? If you see, within the stories themselves, what is the emphasis? So there are similarities and there are dissimilarities. So we will see that the dissimilarities are mainly in two things. That there are the abilities that people have. So Hanuman is a monkey who can leap across the ocean, or Ravan is someone who can change forms. Hiranyakashipu can do terrible things. So that they have certain abilities that we don't have, and they seem to reside in certain domains, arenas which are different from us. So those are dissimilar. But you'll see that no matter how dissimilar they are, there are two key things which are always similar. And that is, everyone operates under constraints. No matter what abilities they have, what arenas they live in, nobody has unlimited power. And we are the specific kind of abilities that we may have, the specific kind of domains we operate may be different. But we all have to operate within constraints. And while operating within constraints, we have to make choices. And those choices will lead to consequences. So, when people do actions, the actions have results. And what are the results? And from that, we can learn. So basically, if you look at the kind of commentaries that the acharyas have given in the tradition, their focus has never been on the extraordinary powers. Their focus has been on these two principles. Nobody in the world has unlimited power. Even when Krishna descends to the world, when the Lord descends, the Lord also operates within some constraints. Even Narasimhadev is all powerful. He's operating within the constraints of the conditions that are coming from the benediction of Brahmaji. Lord Ram, when he's here, he's operating as an ideal human being. So he doesn't always manifest his divine power. So everybody operates within constraints. And nobody gets away by choices which have no consequences. It may seem that the choices don't have any consequences for some time. But eventually everyone has to bear consequences. So what the scriptures are primarily meant to showcase is not the fact that there are some extraordinary beings with extraordinary abilities. So, for example, in Parikshit Maharaj's story, the focus is never on the fact that there is some mystical snake bird, who is controlled somehow by the power of curse by somebody else. And exactly after 7 days, that snake bird will come and bite Parikshit Maharaj and he will die. That extraordinary ability is there. How exactly is it? Like remote control? Is it a time bomb? Is it when his curse comes, it sets a timer? 7 days exactly. How exactly is it going to happen? There's no comment on that at all. Yeah. So, I read a nice quote recently. There's a combination of artificial intelligence and natural stupidity. That is actually endangering the world now. So the point is, yes, you could say that's extraordinary. But that's not the emphasis. The emphasis is on Parikshit Maharaj is a very powerful, virtuous king, but still he also operates under constraints. The constraint is that there is someone more powerful than him and he is cursed by that. Then what choice does he make? And how does he follow through with that choice? So the emphasis is always on these principles. And that's how the scriptures, although they may be spoken long time ago, and they may feature many things which are different from what we see today, still their core message remains highly relatable and applicable for us. So we'll be focusing on this theme of constraints and choices and consequences. In some pastimes, so this is first point, this is setting the scene. I talked about what is the acronym I was discussing? SIP. Okay. So S was the similarity. What are we focusing on? We're focusing on the principle of constraints and consequences. Constraints and choices, consequences. Now, I'll talk about within the pastime, we talk about, this is middle part will analyze the pastime, the intensity. the intensity of the emotions that are involved over there, the intensity of the actions of the characters. If we just put aside for the time being, okay, there's a demon and there's a demon's child and there's a half man, half man. Just look at them as characters, and we'll see that there is so much intensity in all that is going on over there. So I'll focus on 4 incidents within the pastime. Most of us have heard this pastime before, so the specifics of the pastime are not unknown. But I'll go over them to whatever extent that is relevant for our discussion. Now the underlying principle is that we are focusing, as I said, on divine love, or learning to love the Lord in the world. So basically, one of the themes of the Bhagavatam is we are here in the world, and Krishna is above us. Now we could say Krishna is inside us also, and Krishna is in this world also. That is true, no doubt. But in one sense, Krishna is above the world. And we want to go to Krishna. Now we want to go to Krishna, broadly speaking, we can go to Krishna in 2 ways. One is we go through the world to Krishna, the other is we leave the world and go to Krishna. So, go to the world to Krishna is broadly the path of karma. Leave the world and go to Krishna is the path of jnana. Now, bhakti can integrate both these views. In jnana means this whole world is temporary and this whole world is illusory, all the pleasures of this world are deceptive, leave them and go to Krishna. Yes, and they don't think of Krishna, they think of ultimate reality, it's only Brahman. Right? Okay, leave the world. The path of karma is you function in the world, you do your duties, play your role, make sure that the world is functioning properly, help it establish in dharma, and then through that we ultimately go towards Krishna. Now, in one sense, bhakti, it includes and transcends both karma and jnana. That means bhakti can be practiced by somebody turning away from the world and going to Krishna. And bhakti can be practiced by somebody turning into the world and going through the world to Krishna. So if you see the starting story of Parikshit Maharaj, it is described for at least 2 chapters how he was functioning in the world as a responsible ruler. How he confronted Kali and how he punished Kali. And it was not that he was a passive ruler and those who were victims of Kali came to his court seeking justice. What Parikshit Maharaj is doing is like, you say, what is that called? Patrol duty. If there's a vigilant police department, it's not that they wait for crime to be reported. They have police on patrol. And wherever crime is seen, they go there. Of course, there are some police departments where you report the crime also and nothing happens. So Parikshit Maharaj is shown to be very, very responsible and competent and powerful. So he also does this. That means he is doing his worldly responsibility and more service to the Lord. And then, when the circumstances change, he turns away from the Lord and focuses on the Lord. So, now, when we are trying to function in the world, at that time, broadly speaking, there are 4 possibilities. That the world, our worldly situation, it can be favorable or it can be unfavorable. And our heart's disposition can be favorable to the Lord or it can be unfavorable to the Lord. Now I am using this in broad contours over here. Unfavorable means that not many people treat the Lord as the enemy. Unfavorable can also be indifferent to the Lord, don't care for the Lord. So if you consider these 4 possibilities, we call them as 4 quadrants, then which of them is the best? 4, yes. If the worldly situation is favorable, say for example, if we are staying in a place where there is a nice community of devotees, there is a vibrant temple, where our job is also not very demanding, our family is supportive, and then we also feel attracted to Krishna. So we can say this is the best situation to be for our devotional practice. So internally we want to serve the Lord, and externally the circumstances are supportive. Now, among these, if we consider the heart's disposition is unfavorable, then what happens? If you consider these two situations, then there is practically no or low or no devotion over here. And when this is there, the worldly situation may be favorable, it may be unfavorable. What the scriptures tell us is that this whole thing is like poison. It's poison for the soul. Because the soul is disconnected from Krishna. The difference, however, is that this is like sweet poison. It feels a comfortable and enjoyable situation. And when the worldly situation is favorable, then it feels comfortable, it feels enjoyable. And when the worldly situation is unfavorable, that is like bitter poison. It is poison for the soul anyway, but at least it feels bitter, so the person may want to come out of it. Now conversely, if you consider the top two quadrants, the whole thing is like nectar for the soul. Now, when the worldly situation is favorable, it is like sweet nectar. And worldly situation unfavorable, it is like it's like an oxymoron. It is bitter nectar. Now you say, how can nectar be bitter? But it is nectar which at that time does not feel like nectar. Now, with this four-quadrant map, now let's try to see where which character is situated. So, among these four quadrants, where is Hiranyakashipu situated? First quadrant, yes. It's materially very comfortable situation, very powerful. Now, when I'm saying material situation favorable, they say favorable, it can be favorable to bhakti, or it can be favorable for normal living also. Basically, the two are not completely different. If somebody has to constantly worry about food, clothing, shelter, survival, then that may temporarily lead to a person to call out to Krishna intensely, but after some time this becomes draining. So, Hiranyakashipu is situated here in this quadrant. In fact, you could say the contrast that the Bhagavatam is drawing in this pastime is very striking. That generally, whenever any fiction is to be written, of course, these stories are not fiction, but they are stories. And the principle in stories is, if you want to write a story, it's very rare that one person whom you observe in life, you can write a whole story based on that. Because no one person's life is that interesting. Some people have more interesting life than others, but generally, any novelist who writes a novel, the characters that they draw are a composite of many characters. So generally, any story, for the story to be interesting, it is the normal events of life are amplified. Like for all of our life also, if we want to tell some incident from our life, so we don't tell ordinary incidents from our life. That would be, it's times when the situations are amplified. So, you see, Hiranyakashipu, you could say that there's practically no one who had a material situation as favorable as Hiranyakashipu. That was there anyone else in the history of the universe, as the universe was conceived in the Vedic tradition, that who had as much power as he had? That it is described, that just by raising the eyebrows, even the Devatas would comply with his will. That he had got so much power over there. So going back to the starting point of constraints, he was a person who had stretched the constraints to a huge degree. So nowadays we may try to, we can't control the weather with all our technology, but we can try to control the temperature in our homes. Even now we don't have technology that can raise our eyebrows and the temperature will change. Isn't it? At least I have to press some buttons, you have to do something, you have to speak voice activated, touch activated. But he had so much power that it was like Lance activated cosmic technology. So now the message is fantastical. But that's not the key point over there. The key point in the pastime is that the normal human constraints that confine people, he had stretched them so much. He had gained so much power that he had almost godlike power. He believed that he was God. He expected that he would gain enough power, or he already gained enough power that he would actually overthrow God. He would kill God. That was his purpose. He said that. So he was in the situation where he was materially, the situation was extremely favorable. He gained a lot of power. And he was not really a totally ignorant person. See, he knew about the soul. But what was his ideas? In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a very fascinating difference between, when you talk about knowledge, it uses three words: Jnana, Gyeya, and Jnanagamya. These terms can seem very complicated. But Jnanam, Gyeyam, Jnanagamyam. So, Jnanagamya. So, it refers to three different things. It's all connected with knowledge somehow. But when the Gita uses the word knowledge, it refers to the process for gaining knowledge. So when it talks about, say, 12 virtues, 20 virtues, amanito vadambitvam, these are acharya upasana, you follow a guru. This is the process for gaining knowledge. Now, Gyeya is the object of knowledge. Now, when object, it means subject. Which is the subject you study? Are you studying engineering? Are you studying maths? And then Jnana Gamya is the objective of knowledge. The object of knowledge and the objective of knowledge. The two are different things. So, for example, if somebody is, somebody wants to get an Ivy League, what is the process? Okay, you have to get this much CGPA, you have to do all this. Then the process is, you get admitted into the college, and you attend the college, go to the university, the process. What is the object? Okay, I'm studying law over here. I'm studying physics, I'm studying engineering. Then the objective. Now the objective could be, okay, I want to have financial security. I want to become famous as a researcher. I want to do some good to humanity. Or it could just be that if I want a good job and a good salary, I'll attract an attractive partner. And that's why I'm doing this. There could be many objectives. The object and the objective of knowledge. So Hiranyakashipu, he even had spiritual knowledge. The object of knowledge was he had knowledge of the soul. He speaks also about the soul. But his objective was to use the knowledge of the soul to kill God. How is that? He said, I have to perform austerities by which I will gain more and more power. And I want to gain enough power by which one day I will be able to kill God. He says, killing God is very difficult. It doesn't matter. The soul is eternal. So you can continue doing this lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. As long as it takes, I will do so that I will one day get to know him, get enough power to kill Vishnu. So it is not that he was an ignorant fool. I have written a book called Demystifying Reincarnation. So there I talk about much of scientific pointers and evidence towards reincarnation. So once I gave a talk on the topic, and after that, one boy came to me and says, can you pray for me? I said, okay. Because normally this was a little more of an analytical, scientific kind of talk. I didn't expect a prayer request after that. So I said, okay, what is the prayer? He said, I'm in love with a girl. And I've been trying for the last 3 years to get married. But neither her parents nor my parents are agreeing. So I want you to pray so that I can get to marry her in my next lifetime. So there is Jnana and Jnana Gigeya and Jnana Gamya. We truly understand we are the soul, then seek relationship at the level of the soul. But what we are doing is, we are knowing the soul, but then we are trying to perpetuate or prolong the relationship at the level of the body. So, so just because one has knowledge doesn't mean one has the objective of knowledge. So his objective was completely opposite. So there is this concept of weaponizing knowledge. So sometimes there may be a truth, but what are you using that truth for? The truth can be used to something, a point that is right can be used to perpetuate something that is wrong. So if some injustice is going on, some abuse is going on, and when the abuse is going on, the authorities are informed about it. And the authorities are really telling something, oh, it's your own karma, suffer it, tolerate it. No, that is something the individual can think about. If a thief has robbed a person, and the person goes to the king, and the king says, it's your karma. Well, and what is your duty as a king? So knowledge can be weaponized to perpetuate wrong situations also. So the point I'm making is, Hiranyakashipu, he was very favorable on the worldly side, and he was very unfavorable towards the Lord. For many people, unfavorable might just be apathetic. So you could say this is, Hiranyakashipu was like way on the spectrum, if you explain this both ways. At the bottom of the spectrum. And he had extreme material power, and he had extreme antipathy towards God. Where he was using material knowledge. So for example, some atheists may use scientific knowledge to try to deny the existence of God. Now, science itself does not directly address the God question. From that, some inferences can be drawn. But their material knowledge is being weaponized to try to prove atheism. But here, Hiranyakashipu was weaponizing spiritual knowledge to try to kill God. So that was his extreme situation he was in. Now conversely, what the Bhagavatam depicts is, the contrast is Prahalad. If Hiranyakashipu is at this extreme of the quadrant, Prahalad is at this extreme. So how is Prahalad at this extreme of the quadrant? That his situation was materially, in one sense, quite favorable. That is, he was born as a prince, and he was a much loved prince by his father. He was loved by his father. And then it is that he was placed into the most insecure situation, the most dangerous situation that we can actually imagine. What is the dangerous situation? There are many kinds of dangers that can come to us in our lives. And if you see, when dangers come, if somebody is an enemy, somebody is an outsider, they attack us, it hurts us. But somebody is a friend who attacks us, that hurts us even more. If somebody is not just about a friend but a relative, then they say if somebody like a cousin or a sibling, they attack us, it hurt even more. You are meant to be on my side, you are meant to be together. So one reason the Pandavas tried so much to avoid the Kurukshetra war was that they saw we are part of the same family, they are cousins. So they of course didn't want violence in general, but it's also family. So somebody from the family attacking is quite disorienting. It's in our home. Normally, for example, say we come home or we go to a relative's place, and one of the natural relaxing activities we do is we sit and eat food. Now, if we go to a relative's place and we find that the food is poisoned over there, there's somebody who has had, now not accidental food poisoning, intentional food poisoning. Like every time you eat, you think, this food will be, you may think about the calories in the food, but you don't worry about poison in the food. But if you have to worry that, it can scar a person. So that was the situation of the Pandavas. But even worse, it's like the worst materially unfavorable situation one can imagine is that one's own father tries to kill us. So this is, the father is supposed to be a protector. The father is supposed to protect the children from the world. And the father starts not just getting angry. Anger is fine. There's sometimes anger is necessary because that's how discipline is established. But here, his father tried to kill him. And even then, he had some sense of conscience. As a father, I should not be killing my child. And that's why initially he outsourced that job to his assistants. All the initial attempts to kill Prahlad were by others. Others would throw him down a hill, others tried to put him in front of the path of elephants, and someone else tried to put him in fire, Holika. That's one of the stories behind the Holi festival. She had the relation that she went through fire and she would not be burned. So he outsourced that job to others. Because even he had that sense, this is not to be done. A father shouldn't be killing the child. But finally, it came to such a flashpoint that he decided, I'll kill you. And that was the final as a straw that broke the camel's back. That's when Lord Narasimhadev will appear. But here, if we go back to this, that Prahlad, you cannot be in a more vulnerable situation. And in your own home, there's not just an attempt to kill you, it's actually an attempt to kill you. And not just by some other family member, by the person who is meant to protect. So Prahlad is in that situation. So here, what the Bhagavatam is depicting is that Hiranyakashipu has removed all constraints in life. Almost all, not all, but he has extended his power so that he has very, very little constraints. And Prahlad, he has such constraints that even in his own home, he's not safe. So for most people, when we go through life, our focus is on trying to decrease or remove the outer constraints. If only I have more money, if I had more influence, if I had a bigger position, if I had more popularity, then my life would be so much better. So Hiranyakashipu had the life which was very much without constraints, and Prahlad's life was highly constrained. Now that's not the only thing over here. What makes it even more dramatic is that sometimes our life may become unfavorable. Sometimes our worldly situation may become unfavorable. Now say we lose our job, or maybe there's some people in the society, say they slander us, or our reputation gets ruined. And there's physical assassination, there is character assassination. So now any of these things happening is bad. But so if we are practicing bhakti, so we could say now there's a connection between our devotion and our situation. Situation in the world, and the devotion is out there. Sorry, devotion is in here, in the heart, and the situation is out there. Now normally, what most people expect is that the devotion will improve our situation. Now the improvement can be in different forms. In the past, the idea of karma kanda was that you worship God and you get the desirables of life. And there was some variant of karma kanda in the Western world where, oh Father, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, give us our daily bread. Now, most people when they come to God, they don't come so much for physical needs that society has, at least many parts of the world, advanced sufficiently that most people's physical needs are taken care of. But many people now come, it's like, oh God, as our Christian, it was some kind of a joke, but it's also true, oh Father, whole prayer, give me my daily peace. Without my daily bread, give me my daily peace. So most people now come to God because they want some inner peace. So in general, we expect that our devotion should improve our situation. And if our devotion does not improve our situation, that itself becomes a question for people, why should I worship God? What is the point of spending so much time worshipping God, serving God, if there is no improvement in my situation? Hmm? But, so that itself can make somebody unfavorable towards God. But imagine a situation where the devotion itself becomes the cause of the worsening of our situation. Hmm? Say, we are fired from our job because we belong to a particular religion, because we are following a particular faith. Now, of course, in a country like America, will probably file a suit against religious discrimination. Now, I have traveled all over the world. America is the only country where I have seen ads about lawyers. I was in LA, I saw a big ad. The question was, who hurt you? That was the ad. That's all. Who hurt you? So it's like, you tell us who's the villain, we will deal with it. And then we'll give you money and you'll take a cut also, of course. But the point is that it is, say, there was no law court where Prahlad could file against religious discrimination over a case. So if we are persecuted, if we are troubled, if we are tormented because of our faith itself, then that becomes all the more reason for giving up that faith and becoming unfavorable to God. So normally, if you are practicing bhakti, then, and if you are serious in practicing bhakti, we expect that we be respected. You know, that, okay, this person is such a serious devotee, such a serious spiritual person, so devoted. But if because of our practice of bhakti only in society we are disrespected, then why should I even practice it? So we had in the history of our movement also phases, say for example in Soviet Russia, where devotees were persecuted because of their devotion. And those who continue the practice of devotion, even when that devotion is the very cause of the worsening of their situation, that shows a very high level of devotional commitment. It's extraordinary. This is where often the religious psychology, it just has a psychic breakdown. Because they try to explain all of religious practice in some material terms. There's a popular book in Europe, it's called Religion, what is it called? Religion for Atheists. So what happened was there was a new atheists, they were very aggressively trying to get rid of religion and God. That was a phase in the post 9/11 for about 10, 12, 15 years. But now they realize that religion provides a sense of community to people, and religion is going to live for a long time. So now they're saying that we will adopt the forms of religion, and so we'll have community, we'll have singing, and there are some places they have a temple of reason, where you worship the deity of reason, whatever it means. So they try to adopt all the practices of religion by leaving out the essence of religion, that is God. So, why I was talking about this is that religious psychology often tries to reduce religion to its mundane benefits. Either it gross physical benefits or subtle psychological benefits. But here there is a case where not only is there no benefit, there is only trouble because of one's religious practice, because of one's bhakti practice over here. So, if we go see, that's why I said over here in this particular diagram, Hiranyakashipu is at one extreme and Prahlad is at the other extreme. Not only is his material situation very unfavorable, it is unfavorable because of his heart's disposition. And at that time, for somebody to stay devoted to the Lord, it is utterly inconceivable. And he was so devoted to the Lord. So the intensity of emotion that we're talking about in this particular pastime, the spectrum is so remarkable that Prahlad embodies devotion in a situation that most of us will find it difficult to even conceive. So now, and he is not even an adult. He's just a 5-year-old child at that time. So in any culture, okay, you want to persecute adults, you want to prosecute, whatever, but don't target the children. So that is horrifying. So that's what is happening over here. Now, you could say, why do bad things happen to good people? It's a universal theological question. But here it is, why do bad things happen to good people? Because of their goodness. It is that they're trying to do something good, and that is why the cause of bad things happening to them. So Prahlad illustrates how somebody can be operating in such immense constraints where there is nothing for it. And still, so quite the choices that they make. So till now I said I will focus on the theme of constraints and choices. So if we can consider the spectrum of constraints. So constraints is limitations that we face. So constraints can be low or constraints can be high. Or let's put it the other way. There is no constraints and there are heavy constraints, huge constraints. So practically no or low constraints. So this is where Hiranyakashipu is. And this is where Prahlad is. That he is in a materially very unfavorable situation, the constraints are very high. And now within the constraint that one has, what are the choices that we are making? So it is a normal human tendency to outsource the responsibility for our choices, especially when the choices turn out to be bad, to our circumstances. Why did you speak like that? He made me very angry. He provoked me. But this will happen in my life. So it's what happens is a success has many parents. Failure is always an orphan. So when the project is successful, everybody says, I was a part of it, I was a part of it, I was a part of it. If something's project turns out to be a failure, hey, I didn't do anything. That person did, that person did. So normally it's a very normal human tendency to outsource the responsibility for our choices to the constraints of our imposed by circumstances. And there is some truth. Sometimes our circumstances do affect our choices. But we could say that Hiranyakashipu had the most favorable, the least constrained situation. And Prahlad had the most constrained situation. And so, does the constraint in our situation shape our choices? Well, it can. But in this case, we say that the materially favorable situation did not make him favorable to God. In fact, that only made him more and more unfavorable to God. The more materially powerful his situation became, the greater became his conviction that one day I will kill Vishnu. And Prahlad had no second thoughts. No second thoughts despite everything that he was going through. So, what I talked about, we read in this prayer, that sometimes what happens for us, that we may feel my situations are so constrained that we may lose our will to fight against problems. Because situations are so constrained. These problems, sometimes the problems seem unfair. Okay, when it's unfair, oh, my boss has given me so much work. More than enough, it's unfair. But if it is unending, it is not just for this project, as long as you are working here, you're going to have this much work. And then at least you can escalate to some superior. But this boss is the CEO. There's no one above it. Then it's an unfair, unending, and unsolvable problem. And then that is the time when the constraints can get to us and he can become very resentful, he can become very frustrated. And at the time, he said, what is the point of making a right choice? So we can blame our constraints, our circumstances for our bad choices. Can you go ahead? Just read a next paragraph and then I'll speak to you. Think. You're open for question and answer after that. Anyone else like to read? Would you like to read? Yeah.
Please, O Lord, bless me so that the emotion of the moment does not become the basis for decisions whose consequences extend far beyond the moment. Excuse me. Let me remember that however messed up things may be, around me, and even inside me. Still, you are in charge of both the outer world and the inner world. Even if I lose the will to fight a particular battle in this world, let me never lose the will to connect to you.
Thank you. So, our situations naturally affect our emotions. So what happens sometimes, our situations, they may seem to last a long time, but our situations are reversible. So I'm talking about the theme of choices right now, the kind of choices we make in life. Our situations are reversible, and sometimes our emotions are also, not sometimes, most of the times, our emotions are also reversible. That means, say, we had a bad day at work. I just want to quit this job. We have unpleasant interaction with someone. I just want to end this relationship. So situations, they change. Our emotions also situations go up and down, and our emotions go even more up and down. So situations are reversible, our emotions are reversible. But many times, if we don't have that connection with God, if we are focused only on the situations, then what happens is we make decisions. And quite often, the decisions we make may be irreversible. So this is an unwanted pathway. We don't want to, based on reversible situations and reversible emotions, make irreversible decisions. So one most irreversible decision would be, say somebody going to a bad patch in life, a bad phase in life. What is the point of even living? And they try to end their life. Now there is no going back, at least in this life, from that decision. So if our vision is focused only on the situation, and we are not looking at the Lord, we are not connected with the Lord, then it becomes very difficult to not let the situation get to us. Sometimes people get under our nerves, or get to our nerves, or get under our skin, as they say. So what happens? Situations will get to us, and that can sometimes make us take decisions that are irreversible. So Prahlad does not let his situations determine his decisions. He remains firm in his devotion to the Lord. In contrast, Hiranyakashipu, as the situation starts going more and more out of his control, that Prahlad is just not listening to him. So his temper becomes worse and worse. And attempting to kill someone, that is also an irreversible decision. So he moves toward that irreversible decision. He even justifies it. He says that just as sometimes if a limb is corrupted, then better you amputate the limb, otherwise the whole body will become diseased. So he says, similarly, this Prahlad is a part of my family, but he has become corrupted, he has become diseased, and therefore he has to be cut off. So he comes up with the reasoning also to justify what he wants to do. There is no thought also, he doesn't even have a slight second thought that maybe what Prahlad is saying is right. Maybe there is some substance to what Prahlad is saying. So, if you consider what happens is that the Gita says that the senses can be captivated by selfish desire, the mind can be captivated by selfish desire, but the worst is when the intelligence gets captivated by selfish desire. The senses are captivated means what? Somebody just eats too much or indulges in sensuality too much. The mind is captivated means when they feel just addicted. That mind just is consumed by that particular desire, by that particular craving. But when the intelligence is captivated, that's when they start justifying what they're doing. That's when they start saying, actually there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it? So this is where, when we rationalize, what happens is, we tell rational lies. When we rationalize, we tell rationalize. So he starts saying that he justifies his action of killing his own son by a particular thread of logic. It's a terrible logic, but there's a logic to it. So the point I'm making over here, this is not just a hot-headed action. Somebody gets angry and does something. One time we do it, but he does it repeatedly. It's not Hiranyakashipu's action, Hiranyakashipu's emotion towards Prahlad. It's not just anger. See, anger comes and goes. Every parent may feel anger when the child does something they don't want, or there's something not safe for the child also. But his emotion has gone toward the level of hate. So anger is hot-headed. Anger comes and goes. Anger generally operates by sidelining our intelligence. When we get angry, what happens is the anger becomes so strong and it is pushed aside and we do something. But hate does not sideline our intelligence. Hate recruits our intelligence. So hate, what it does is we start using our intelligence. So hate is cold-blooded. It is not hot-headed. So here the intelligence is simply pushed aside. After a person does something in anger, then they come out of the spell of anger and say, what did I do? The Greeks had a saying that not Greek saying, it comes from that anger is temporary insanity. Yes, but you can say hate is not insanity. Hate is actually a person is using all the intelligence. It's like the intelligence is recruited over here for that purpose. So then finally, I talk about a couple more points here. So he is filled with hate for his son. And the iterations of the incidents that happen over there, in one sense, it just can seem funny that a child is coming from school and Prahlad is being asked by Hiranyakashipu, okay, what did you learn in school? And Hiranyakashipu replies. So it might just seem like a normal parent-child iteration, but what is happening over there is that through it, the spiral of decline of Hiranyakashipu is being depicted. The spiral of decline is that first he just doesn't take it seriously, he's just a child. But then he chastises his teachers. So he is also trying that maybe Prahlad is not the problem, maybe his situation is the problem. So let's change the situation, chastises his teachers. But then the teachers say that he's such a problem that he's actually, instead of we containing him, he's corrupting our whole school. Everybody has been made into a devotee. Then he's corrupting our entire school. And then Hiranyakashipu decides that this is a problem I have to deal with. And then after that, he tries to kill Prahlad, it doesn't work. Now it's interesting, after that, when that doesn't work, the story seems to go on. Prahlad goes back to school and he's teaching and learning in school. And then finally, the flashpoint comes. So here, we just look at the chain of incidents and the intensity of emotions. I'll talk about Narasimhadev's action and how that depicts something very significant. So now Prahlad is again in the court. And there, Hiranyakashipu asks him, so where is your Vishnu? Where is your Vishnu? So he is frustrated. For him, he doesn't just want to kill Prahlad. He wants to break Prahlad. So he wants to prove to Prahlad that your faith is false. Like communism is among the few world powerful ideologies that was aggressively anti-theistic. So they didn't just persecute people who were religious. They wanted to actually break people's religious spirit. And that's why when there were some Christian priests who, because of being tortured and various reasons, they actually turned and they became communist and they became preachers of communism. And they would be portrayed that this is the conversion that should be happening. All of you follow him. So he wanted to break Prahlad's spirit. That's why he said that, where is the Vishnu? Is he in this pillar? And his plan was, he'll expose to Prahlad the falsity of his faith. And thus he will break Prahlad. And then he will kill him. Something break over there?
We put him in that pillar earlier.
Yeah, the flowers came from the pillar.
Is that a way to tell me my class is over, timing is over? So then, when Hiranyakashipu went forward, and he said, so Prahlad very nonchalantly, matter-of-factly replied. Now, in some ways, Prahlad seems to be provoking Hiranyakashipu. It's sometimes we say discretion is the better part of valor, but if somebody is angry, don't provoke them. But Prahlad seems to be repeatedly provoking Hiranyakashipu. When Hiranyakashipu asked him, what did you learn in school? Prahlad could have told something harmless. Okay, he said, oh, why did you have to tell each time? Then finally, when Prahlad asked the question that, oh, where is the source of your power? What is the source of your power? He said, even the devatas, they tremble on seeing me angry. Now Prahlad chooses to give what seems to be the most provocative answer. What he says is, he doesn't say my power comes from Vishnu. He actually says, the source of my power is the same as the source of your power. And the same as the source of your power also. He mentions Brahma over there. So now what is he trying to do is, he's in one sense provoking Hiranyakashipu by informing him that you think this is your power, it's actually not your power. You think of somebody is a very wealthy person, you tell him actually your wealth is not your wealth. Or somebody is in a big post, it's actually not your power, it's the government's power. They get even more provoked by that. So Prahlad seems to be actually provoking Hiranyakashipu more and more. He is not provoking Hiranyakashipu, he is trying to educate Hiranyakashipu. He's trying his best. See, it's like the tone of his speech is always very polite. The content is provocative, but the tone is polite. What happens? So, what he's speaking is hard truth. He's hoping that this truth might awaken something within his father. And why does he say this? The source of your power is the same as the source of my power. He's trying to, the verses that follow, he's trying to tell him that actually you and Vishnu are not competitors. There is no need that the only enemy, you are thinking of Vishnu as your enemy, but Vishnu is not your enemy. It is Vishnu who has given you the strength that you have. If he were your enemy, why would he give you the strength? So, it is not to minimize that your strength is not your strength. Don't think of Vishnu as your enemy, he is not your enemy. He says the only enemy is your own mind, which makes you believe that Vishnu is your enemy. So Prabhupada in translation uses the mind that is uncontrolled and misguided. Now, uncontrolled mind is bad enough, but misguided further is even worse. So he's trying to educate Vishnu, educate Hiranyakashipu or Vishnu. There are two different conceptions of God. One is God is the best of all beings. This is where there is a hierarchy of being, and there are many, many beings, and at the top of this hierarchy is God. So like a tennis competition, in a tennis competition the number one player is there. That is at the top of the rankings. Now if somebody else wins more matches, gains more ATP points, then that person will become number one. So this is one conception of God that Hiranyakashipu has. That God is the best of all beings. But what Prahlad is telling is, this is Hiranyakashipu's conception. He's thinking that if I just gain more power, I'll become God. But the conception that Prahlad is giving is, God is not the best of all beings, He is the basis of all being. That God exists in a different category. That yes, there is a hierarchy in this world, And there are people who are higher and there are people who are lower. But this entire hierarchy is sustained by God. Hmm. Anyone who exists at any place, whatever power they have, so this is the material domain in which there is a hierarchy, but God exists above this hierarchy. And He also exists sustaining hierarchy. So he's trying to tell him that you don't have a competition with Vishnu. Don't have that competitive spirit. It's only your mind's misconception that is leading to this. Somehow Hiranyakashipu doesn't get it at all. So he smashes that pillar. When he smashes that pillar, at that time, this is where the final I talk about the intensity of the emotion of what Hiranyakashipu does. Hiranyakashipu, or what Narasimha does. Narasimha, suddenly there is a tremendous roar that comes. Later on, Prahlad says, Nirad Bid Digimar Arivinna Kagra. The roar is so tumultuous that even giant elephants who are said to sustain the universe, they start trembling in fear. So, that, even Hiranyakashipu closes his eyes. So, how scary that sound is. And then, generally speaking, the Lord, when he fights, like Ravan is physically much bigger than Ram. The Kauravas are much bigger in number than the Pandavas. But this is the first time, one of the few times when the Lord is physically in a bigger form than the demon. Narasimhadev comes in a giant form. And Hiranyakashipu is trying to figure out who is this being? Where does he come from? He has seen Vishnu. This doesn't seem like Vishnu. Where does this being come from? Now, the acharyas have this question that does Hiranyakashipu figure out that this being, do you want me to stop? Or?
Please don't make me stop for RT, but keep going.
Okay, sure.
You can do the RT.
So, the acharyas have some different opinions. Does Hiranyakashipu figure out that this is the being who is actually the being that can kill me? That is half man, half lion. So always whenever the idea in the Bhagavatam or the Vedic scripture is that people can try to expand their powers, but there will always be some loopholes. And the Lord is the supreme loophole finder. In every condition that you make, there's a loophole. Krishna says, Dyutam Chalayatam among cheaters I am the gambler. So, Hiranyakashipu comes up with many conditions. He comes up with so many ways. Oh, I'll be immortal. But the Lord finds a loophole from there. And then he finds the loophole, and then there's a fight. Now the fight goes on for some time. He allows Hiranyakashipu to believe that he can get away with it. He's caught and he escapes. I escape. But Hiranyakashipu is being played by Lord Narasimha. It's a play game of cat and mouse. And finally, what is the Lord doing? Actually, the Lord is waiting for twilight to come. The Lord is not that he has to honor that vow, but the Lord also operates within constraints. And the fight is going on, and when the fight is going on, when the Lord sees it is twilight now, it's one swift movement, just catches Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu thought there's a big fight going on, and like two boxers are fighting, they're both dodging blows, and the fight is heating up, and suddenly from nowhere, one blow comes, knockout, finished. Hiranyakashipu, the Lord just did not kill him. The Lord actually shows him his powerlessness. That he is caught on the lap. He's completely powerless over him. So the Lord, when he reveals his power, he in the same assembly where Hiranyakashipu has dominated so much, the same assembly where Hiranyakashipu has terrorized, it is in that very assembly that the Lord reveals his power. So where the Lord had been mocked the most, where the Lord's devotees had been persecuted the most, that is where, in due course of time, the Lord reveals his power. And Hiranyakashipu is killed, and then the Lord, first of all, himself sits on the throne of Hiranyakashipu. And a conqueror sitting on the throne of the defeated, the king. And then after that, the Lord installs Prahlad on that throne. So, in due course, there is this redemption that happens. So now, the Lord's emotion is so great that he wants to thoroughly proclaim the glory of Prahlad. And as when the devatas offer prayer, the Lord is not satisfied. Why is he not satisfied? Because he's saying, you are pretending to be my devotees now, but when my devotee was in trouble, you neither protected nor protested. And now you are offering prayers. I am not going to listen to you. It's only when Prahlad offers prayers that the Lord becomes pacified. And then in the instruction that Narasimha gives to Prahlad, there's one verse of Prahlad is in this situation. So the Lord eventually brings Prahlad to this situation where he is made the king. And the Lord says that you exhaust your negative karma and you utilize your positive karma. And if you live in this way, you will come to me. So the Lord, he is not out, the situation is not out of his control. The ease with which the Lord gets the situation back in his control shows that the Lord has the power to get it back in his control anytime. So if we find ourselves in a materially unfavorable situation, it is not that the Lord does not control or does not care. The Lord has some purpose over there. And that purpose will be revealed in due course. So Prahlad's glory is revealed through the extreme unfavorable situation that he faces and still the favorable bhakti that he maintains. And the last part is what I already indicated. It's all about intensity and P was practicality. So what does it practically mean for us? So in practically, two things. There's a logical conclusion of these 2 points that whatever be our constraints, let those constraints not stop our devotion. Yes, and bhakti is so malleable in one sense that devotion can be practiced in different ways in different situations. So our constraints may change. The constraints are come in our life and we can't avoid those constraints sometimes. But constraints, they can change the shape of our devotion. But let it not change the substance of our devotion. The way we express our bhakti, we may not be as overt and provocative as Prahlad was in unfavorable circumstances. Right? The constraints may change the shape. So sometimes we are more discreet in our practice of bhakti. Say if we go to the Middle East, there we don't wear devotional clothes, we don't have deities, we don't have temples. But still we are practicing bhakti. The devotional community is very vibrant over there. So let the constraints not, they may change the shape, yes. The substance, no, we don't give up our bhakti because of substance. That's what we can learn from Prahlad. And the last point is that we don't blame our choices. Our choices, we take responsibility for them. That we don't outsource the responsibility, it is because of circumstances. It is a decision that we make. And yes, we may not be strong enough to stand up to certain circumstances. Sometimes some circumstances may not be worth standing up to. But it is our choice. The power of our choice is something you always have. And when we start blaming our circumstances for our choices, basically we start losing or depleting the power of choosing. So rather than, okay, in this circumstance, I choose not to do this. And that's okay. It's a matter of choice. But Prahlad chose. So when the power of choice is so low, Prahlad is actually still exercising the power of choice to turn toward Krishna at great personal cost. So for us, whatever might be the cost, we might decide, I don't want to incur this cost. That's okay. But don't blame that this circumstance will not allow me to do it. It is, we have to be in some ways practical. Maybe this is not what risk I want to take right now in my service. But whatever it is, we always have choices. And even if you take a small choice to turn toward Krishna, that also Krishna appreciates. So we will probably not be put in as dangerous situations as Prahlad is. But whatever situation we are in, we can try to use our free will to choose Krishna in whatever way we can. I was with one devotee who was who had got a stroke, and this is The stroke was very severe and the devotee was, there's no way that devotee was going to survive. So sometimes they were put in a situation where we practically can do nothing. So the devotees were doing kirtan and they were asking, is he able to even hear the kirtan or not? So now there's some brain signals and we're observing, the brain was almost completely flat. So I was telling the devotees that at that time, scientifically we may or not be able to see some things, but see the brain is also a part of the body. Just like the hand can get fractured, the brain can also get damaged. But the brain is not the source of consciousness. If during the course of one's life, one has trained one's consciousness to turn toward Krishna, normally we need our body to turn our consciousness toward Krishna. So normally we say that we chant aloud because that's how we can be more likely of being attentive. But if we have habituated ourselves to remember Krishna, then even if we physically can't come to the temple, we'll be at home, we'll be in hospital, but our mind will be remembering Krishna. But even if say our brain stops functioning, we are not our brain, we are not our body. So even if the brain stops functioning, that's a severe constraint. But Krishna, if we are offering Krishna stimuli at that time, the devotee has habituated himself to practicing bhakti, then the soul will be open. The soul will be receiving the sound of Krishna, even if the brain is not functioning. So now, and you can say any soul will receive the sound of Krishna, yes, but will that soul be open to receive the sound of Krishna? Some souls may not because they never opened themselves to Krishna in the course of their life. So there are times when in future we may feel we have no choices. But if when we have choice, we make the right choices, we turn toward Krishna, then Krishna will make sure that we will be with him, even in situations where there seem to be no choices for us. So let's just focus on trying to make the choices that we can to turn toward Krishna. That is what Prahlad teaches us. So quickly I summarize. I discussed the theme of Prahlad's love for Krishna, of Narasimha. Talk about S was the similarity. Talk about three things. The similarity is that there are two things that are similar. The constraints that everybody has in life and the choices that we make and the consequences that come to the choices. The dissimilarity is the abilities may be different, the domains or the arenas may be different. But that's not what the acharyas have emphasized. So then we discussed about I was intensity. That was the key part of the session that I talked about. This diagram of our worldly situation being favorable or unfavorable, and our heart's disposition being favorable or unfavorable. So what happened was Hiranyakashipu had the most favorable situation and the most unfavorable disposition. He broke through most of the constraints that limit most people by gaining incredible powers and glance activated weather control technology here. So, but still, what happened was he was still not happy. He used his weaponized spiritual knowledge to go against God, and his heart was never content. Prahlad not only had a materially unfavorable situation that his own father and his own home was trying to kill him, it was because of his devotion that he was being killed. So we expect our devotion to improve. This is a different diagram. Devotion, we expect our devotion to improve our situation. But in this case, the devotion that was the cause of the worsening of the situation. And still he remained devoted. That is extraordinary devotion. And then the practicality, what we learn from this beautiful story. I talked also about Narasimha demonstrates intensity that in Hiranyakashipu's domain itself he was killed. And that very domain Prahlad was enthroned. So the Lord always has power. Although that power may not be revealed. So we discussed two main points, that our constraints, they may limit our choices, but they don't change. They can shape our devotion, but they don't change alter the substance of our devotion. We can decide how best we can practice bhakti in different situations, but do not give the practice of bhakti. And don't blame our choices on our constraints. If we always have the power of choice, and don't blame it on the constraint, but make the choice that we can, even in limited constraints. And in future, if the the constraints become too much, it is Krishna who will ensure that our consciousness draws towards him. Let us all pray to Prahlad Maharaj that and to Narasimhadev that their example may inspire us to keep choosing the Lord in whatever situation we may face in our life. Let us just repeat this prayer. O Lord of, O Lord of my heart,
O Lord of my heart,
let me never lose heart.
let me never lose heart.
श्री नरसिम्हदेव भगवान की
जय।
नरसिम्ह चतुर्दशी महामहोत्सव की
जय।
जय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Hare Bol. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, for this very enlivening lecture and for allowing us to pray to the Lord of our heart that may we never lose heart. Thank you so much. Okay, and so thank you to our Pujari and to our sponsors for this wonderful, beautiful altar, and the deities and their lordships are just so beautiful. So we will continue to worship them with some kirtan. So I will ask that we please move the, and we're going to have announcements afterwards, if that's okay. Yes? Yes? Hi, yes.
Please announce all the books that are signing behind.
Okay, yes, and we will sign books at the end. We're going to announce that again. And yes, we will have announcements and we will be signing books
So
at the
I
end.
already showed this book, Prayers Inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. This is the 122 prayers for all occasions. Prayers when you're feeling lonely and abandoned, because when you're feeling constrained in life, prayers when life is unfavorable for us. So this is there, another book called Gita for the CEO, which is especially practical application of Gita in corporate life. So both these books are available behind, and if you want, I'll be there behind to answer questions and sign the books. Thank you very much.
So Hare Krishna everyone. So since the R2 is just about finished and the next part of the program will begin, what we'll do now is everyone can stand, we'll sing the prayers to Lord Nishringa Dev in honor of this occasion. So Nishringa R2.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Shiva
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much. Thank you again to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu for such a wonderful class. Another loud Haribol! Haribol! And thank you to our sponsors and our volunteers who do so much to make these events happen and to work so wonderfully. So just a round of applause for them. Thank you. And also thank you to the pujaris for all their efforts in making this extraordinary darshan, creating all the details. Bhakti is in the details. So we have a wonderful rest of schedule for the rest of the day. We will continue here. Today we will have, for those who are fasting, you are fasting and that's wonderful. And for those who are not fasting, there is an Ekadasi prasad, vegan prasad in the back. So we invite you to take prasad back there. And there will be a fire yajna for Lord Narasimha Dev tonight that's being set up next. Okay, so that's happening. Okay, thank you so much. And anything else I'm missing here to Chinese time? We have, tonight we'll also have a talk on Lord Narasimha Dev at 7, I believe.
It's 5:30.
Did it change? Okay, sorry, I'm looking at something wrong then. Okay, 5:30, thank you. Yes, I see. All right, so we started, isn't there something at 4:30? Havana's at 2.
Harinam's at 3.
Harinam is at 3.
Abhishek is at 4.
Abhishek is at 4.
Class is at, John is at 5. And then that is at 5:30.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you. I missed this. Thank you so much. We have the yajna at 2. Harinam from 3:15 to 4:15. So if people want to participate in that, they go downstairs.
Yeah, it's outside.
Outside, yes. So then there will be Harinam outside. Abhishek of our Narasimha Dev Shalagram at 4:15 to 5 o'clock. And then at 5 p.m. there's a drama by our wonderful devotees. A dramatic play, yes, of the Narasimha Dev pastimes. And at 5:30, there will be another lecture, and this time by our lovely Bhagavat Sravana Prabhu. And he will be speaking from 5:30 to 6:30. At 6:30, we have Gora RT and Narasimha RT at 6:50 to 7:15, and then Prasad again at 7 if you choose to stay for the rest of the day. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for all of your contributions, and it really makes a huge difference. Okay, let me give you this, and once again, thanks for allowing me to do this for the first time on Narasimha Dev. So sorry you guys didn't get the questions I promised initially. That was my fault. And I do want to say that we have a campaign called Sponsor a Day, where you can sponsor a full day of worship for their lordships in honor of a loved one or a special occasion. So please, thank you. Haribol!
Haribol!